Hey everyone, this amazing ESO Network show is brought to you by our fine sponsor, Amazon.com. Please remember to shop Amazon for all your geeky needs, no matter what time of the year it is. All you need to do is go to esopodcast.com/ESO Amazon, or click on the Amazon banner on the ESO Network webpage to go to our e-store. It's the best way to shop and the best way to support this program, and it doesn't cost you anything extra. Okay, that's enough of me babbling for now. Now on with your regular scheduled show.
When one speaks of the perfect symmetry between science fiction, fantasy, and horror podcasting, with a special emphasis on Doctor Who, one should become a connoisseur of Transmissions from Atlantis, featuring JC and Rita Delatorre. While both will have a passionate and vigorous argument on the subject of the day, they do so with the utmost respect.
What? That wasn't stupid.
You're stupid!
You're stupid!
You're stupid! Stupid! And dignity.
Commander Riker here! I'm by the book! Yeah!
Prime directive kind of guy?
Prime directive! Geeky.
Join Transmissions from Atlantis weekly at transmissionsfromatlantis.com and part of the ESO network. Yes. It's quite good, really.
Hello, and welcome again to the Monster Sci-Fi Show podcast. I am the host, the monster, the sci-phologist, if that is such a word. I don't care. I am a sci-phologist. There. Alternate facts. Alright, we're going to talk about a couple of things, but right off the bat, the big quick item that I want to put out there, if you haven't heard, Star Wars Rouge One. It will be coming out on DVD and Blu-ray and 3D and on demand and everywhere, blah 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 blah, starting on March 24th and then on demand everywhere on April 4th. So that's the great news about Rogue One, is that it's coming out very soon. The bad news, no deleted scenes that we talked about numerous times with the extensive reshoots. Nothing. We'll get some really good stuff about the movie and behind-the-scenes stuff, but nothing about the reshoots. Disappointed. But nonetheless, I'm going to collect it. I will buy it for my collection. So, aside from that, this weekend we have the Oscars coming up, which, honestly, I'm not much of a fan as much as I used to be back in the olden days, since the last century. But whatever, we'll see what happens with the Oscars. So, I have, again, as always, with the sci-fi news, 3 big items I'm going to be talking about. So the first one is going to be on the Walking Dead t-shirt controversy. Next, NASA confirms 7 Earth-like planets. And in a rare moment, I'm actually going to talk about something good about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and their last episode called Self-Control. I was quite surprised, so it was worthy enough for me to talk about this as the third entry for the sci-fi news, just because, why not? It actually deserves a little bit of kudos here. So, let's get started with this.
Eeny, meeny, miny, moe.
So there you have it. The infamous Negan line that started off Season 7 of The Walking Dead was uttered, was said, and delivered powerfully by a bat named Lucille. And if those of you taking notes, I have not watched anything more of The Walking Dead after that first episode of season 7. So I am way behind, but I will get caught up at least by the summer if that ever happens. But still, let's talk about this moment. The whole eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Catch a tiger by the toe is what Negan said. And the controversy is regarding the t-shirt of that phrase. The eeny, meeny, miny, mo, and Lucille, the bloody barb bat, being on a t-shirt. And the words are spelled out, and the bats are going across it. So this is over in the UK, in which this was an issue. So there was a couple from Sheffield that went to a store that saw the Walking Dead t-shirt that said that phrase and reported this to the company boss. So if you are aware of that phrase, and I've known that phrase since growing up in elementary school, you use that to kind of play a game of elimination if you're going to be tagged or like the last person it gets called out. Whatever it is, you use that as eeny, meeny, miny, mo, catch a tiger by the toe. Now, to ignore the fact that instead of the tiger, the N-word was used, but in the context of The Walking Dead, that was never said. And I do believe that the t-shirt in question does have a tag stating that it's from The Walking Dead. Although this minister's point is that because of that phrase and because of the bat and the barbed wire that was used to kill black people. I understand that point, but the fact that this is coming from a TV series that episode specifically happened well over 6 months ago, and that phrase was never uttered, and it's really, to me, taken out of context, it does not make sense for the company to decide we're going to pull all the shirts from the market, which is stupid. I understand it from a socially conscious point, but again, you need to put things in context, just like, and I hate to use this, but going back to things that, whether you're of one party, Republican or Democrat, and someone said this, can you believe that? Yes. But let me hear it in the full context so I can then make a decision on what it is good or bad about it. So, in fairness, would it have been better that shirt had then a picture of Negan holding the bat with the phrase in the background, eeny, meeny, miny, mo? So there was a clear context of what that image is and what the phrase is being uttered because of the character. I guess that little tag saying that it's from The Walking Dead was not enough for them to understand that this was from an episode of a very famous TV show. So as such, if you happen to have one of those shirts, guess what? You've now made that a very valuable commodity. So, I have no problems when people have issues with things and they have every right to speak their mind. But when it comes to this, and to me, and from what I'm gathering from the reading that I've done, they're really taking this out of context. I would have been more upset about people reacting to that episode 6 months ago as opposed to now that a t-shirt is being made, that phrase is being printed, and that shirt's being sold. That's what I have a problem with. Again, everyone has a right to complain. Everyone has a right to like what they like. But it just seems a small minority is dictating this action. All right. So I'm going to move on to something a little bit lighter, in which we have some good news. What did NASA find? Well, they found out that we're still in the year 2017 and President Trump is still our president. Unfortunately. But, good news. They found 7 planets in the T-Rapist-1 system. I'm sorry, the TRAPPIST-1 solar system. So the whole point of this is that they found 7 Earth-like planets that are only 39 light years away, folks. Just 39 light years. That's like nothing. But hell, there's life out there. Just not as we know it, Jim. So it's really good news that we have this happening. That we actually have a way off this rock. Granted, it is only 40 light years away. So again, how long does it take for light to travel? Well, if you know your science, it takes at least 8 minutes for the sun light rays to reach us on Earth. So 8 minutes. So that's the speed of light, and yet it still takes 8 minutes. So multiply that over 40 light years, we're still looking at a very long time. So the only way this works in my head, granted, we don't have the technology yet, but we have to look towards Star Trek, where we have warp drives. So I was looking online to see how long it would take if we actually had warp drive technology. Well, the good news is, if we were entering warp factor 9, we will get to our destination in 9.634781080105729 days to get there. But, we never want to push the engines that far to go, at warp 9. But let's go slower. So let's do warp 3. It's still going to take us at least 375.18548956528878 days in order to get to our destination. That's really, I can live with that. But again, there are so many problems just getting to that place that we had to take care of, such as our radiation and the food and how we're going to feed everyone and how you're going to clean up the poop and all that fun stuff. It's a lot of things that we have to overcome. We're not even, settled on the Mars mission yet as to how this is going to work out. So that's not going to happen in our lifetime. Maybe not in our next generation. We may not see that. We may be a step closer to seeing more planets and more detail. We have more information about what's going on in this region, but we're still in no way, shape, or form able to go ahead and travel that far out. So again, it's nice that it's only 40 light years away, but traveling through space ain't like dusting crops, boy. So what's the cool thing about that is the planets, from what I've been reading, because of the size, have less days in a year than what we do. So I think on average it's like less than 20. the other effect is that you'll be able to see all the other planets because of their close locations to each other. So that's kind of cool. So if you're on any of those planets, you can see the others very closely. Now, the weird part is that because of their proximity to each other, they're kind of locked into place. And what I mean by that is, if you look at the moon, we only see the one side of the moon. We never see the dark side of the moon, where the transformers are. The planets also would have that same problem. So you would have basically light on one side and then darkness on the other side. So there is no change of day and night throughout the whole planet. It's just half is going to be daylight and half is going to be nighttime. So that's kind of cool. If you're into partying all night, literally, you can party all night. So, the other thing that people started to do was to name the planets, the 7 planets, to what are we going to call them now? Well, I looked at Twitter and started looking around to seeing what people were writing out there. And one at Momentum Comic wrote, this is the name of the planets in order. This one, that one, the other one, no, that one. To my left, oh, forget it. Those are the 7 planets. Another one at J.S. Williams, 1962, wrote, which I really like, calling the new planets Planet Fitness, Planet Hollywood, Captain Planet, Planet of the Apes, Planet Coaster, Planet Pizza, and Pluto. So I would not be the self-acclaimed scifologist if I did not at least play along with naming these new 7 Earth-like planets. So, what would I call them, you ask? Go ahead, ask me. The first one, Arrakis, Dune, desert planet. Of course, it would make sense that it'll be the first one because it's closest to the sun. So there should be a desert. There'll be very little water on there. All right, so coming in at number 2, Eternia. Number 3, Gallifrey. Number 4, Altair 4. And number 5, this is City Alpha 5. Number 6, Crankor. And coming in number 7, LV-426. So there you have it, folks. That is the monsters pick names for these new 7 planets. So tell a friend, enjoy my list. If you have a list, share that list with me. Alright, so at this point here, I'm going to be talking about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So there are going to be spoilers, or if you don't care about me talking about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Mr. Gene, go ahead and turn off the podcast, and thank you very much for listening to me for this week. So, let's go into kind of some really cool stuff that I saw. Now, as I mentioned before, I've stuck through Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. through the good and the bad. And then, okay, it got a little better moments. Season 4 has done fairly well in my book. Just because of the opening season 4, we have the Ghost Rider storyline. But then that stopped, and then it moved into this LMD storyline, which was weird because we have kind of like a cliffhanger moment before we get into the next storyline for this year. So for this season, we're going to have basically 3 cliffhangers. So this is the second of the second trimester, second cliffhanger, whatever you want to call it. I don't know. But it's weird that this is happening. And I bring it up for this reason because it was actually good. As I mentioned at the very beginning, it was actually quite good. The moments, and I'm trying to kind of compress it all and not give it point by point, but the whole LMD basically is that Ada was created by Dr. Radcliffe, who then replaced Agent May, and then the last episode, pretty much everyone was replaced except for Gemma and Fitz. Fitz and Emma and Gemma were working together until she suspected that he has been replaced, and sadly, he was. The only other person that was not affected from the previous episode was Daisy, who, is Quake. So throughout the episode, they're trying to hide out and avoid being captured. The one moment that I liked with Daisy, which was a little bit awkward, Daisy finds a room full of daisies. And basically, they're all in black underwear, apparently. So this is where I was just like, okay, so Daisy's going to have to get undressed. And hopefully she's wearing black underwear. So I don't know if, because you don't see that happen, if she had to take off one of the LMD's underwear off and put that on and then find a place to hide the dead LMD and then be in her place. I just thought that's what might have happened. Because there was like even amount of people in each row. So it wasn't like, 101 daisies and like, oh, that's the one right there. The one that's not, in the 10th row. So whatever the case is, Matt comes in and he thinks he finds the quote-unquote real Daisy, but gets sucker punched because Daisy was, a line or two away from him, and then boom, she escapes. So as the episode ended, the last couple of moments, I think, were a lot more interesting about the whole premise of what they're going to be doing for the next storyline. We have Gemma and Daisy going under to be put into the MainFrame. The MainFrame is this virtual world in which Coulson, Megan, the director, and Fitz are all basically in a virtual world. And, of course, Dr. Radcliffe is in there based on Ada, who, quote-unquote, killed him, but only because she was kind of programmed to make sure that that world was protected. Which is kind of a weird take on the Tron legacy where Clue made sure that he got rid of all the impurities, basically, and basically, got rid of everyone that was not like him. But in this case, Ada did preserve her programming and did preserve her logic by killing Radcliffe because he was, basically inferior in some respect because he was unstable in certain aspects. So she had to make sure that that world remained intact, but she freed him as well. So she did protect him in that sense. The world that we see, Daisy is now back from the very beginning of episode 1, in which she wakes up in the bathtub, which I believe that was in the very beginning. She wakes up and she is calling out to her boyfriend, but we see a picture of her and what's his name? So it's Grant that we see in a picture frame with Daisy. So he's alive in that world. Next thing we see for Gemma is a headstone. in which she's dead. So how that's going to work, I don't know. And then we see Agent May, or at least another version of Agent May. We're thinking it's the original, in which the camera pulls back and keeps pulling back out of an office space, out of a building, and we see it's the Triskelion building for the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. from the Winter Soldier. And even further back, there's a logo for Hydra on there. And that, I thought, thank you, at least I got some kind of wow moment after dreading through so much of meh through a lot of episodes. So yes, it's all fake, but at least I left with a wow moment that I'm like, all right, Jed Whedon, he finally gets at least a little of applause there for at least making this worth my time. So I was happy about that. So we'll see whatever happens from this point on. But wow, what a way to kind of really go in a different direction, because you can really start from scratch. And that could be a whole storyline, a whole season's worth of doing stories in this virtual world and bring back old characters and maybe actually redo Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. in a better way in this virtual world. So that in itself, I think sounds a lot more promising than what they're going right now without that whole MainFrame work. So if there's ever a bright spot, that was it. That was my hope of, that actually did something great. So that's why I'm actually talking about this on the show. Because normally, no. But, again, if you go watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., at least do yourself a favor and watch the first season. That is all that I'm asking. If you like it, fine. You're done. You don't have to watch any more. But if you do, you can watch it until season 2.5, because that really gets more traction with the Inhuman storyline. And basically when Daisy becomes Quake, I think from that moment on, it kind of fades a lot from that second half of season 2, season 3, very much so. But again, season 4, if you like Ghost Rider like I do, it's worth your time to watch it. And now with this, now I actually kind of I'm eager to really find out what's going to happen for the rest of the season. So, all right. So I'm not going to get into more of the episode. But again, I really could not have been more happier than what I saw on Agents. All right, enough already. Damn it. Get off Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. stuff. All right. So, this has been a very productive February. So, I'm hoping you're enjoying all these podcasts that you've heard for the past month. Next month is going to be, if not more productive. We have Logan coming out, which I'm going to do a review on. We have Kong Skull Island the week after that. Plus, we have a hell of a lot more sci-fi news to get to. Plus, whatever comes up along the way that I will be talking about, like my Versus episode, which is Kong 1933 version versus the 1976 versus the 2005. So, again, I'm producing a hell of a lot more stuff, and I'm hoping that you guys are enjoying it. So, if you do, hell, send me an email. Rate me on iTunes. Give me a rating. Let me know you guys exist. Do me a favor. Let me know what I'm doing right. If I'm doing something wrong, let me know. Anything. Email me at monsterscifishow@gmail.com. As always, thank you very much for listening to the Monster Sci-Fi Show podcast. Sci-fi from a certain point of view. Resist.
This has been a broadcast of the ESO Network, your station for all things geek, classic, current, and beyond. Be part of the crew at ESONetwork.com.